Hi, everyone. Welcome to our roundtable discussion on assessing student responses while also addressing how to implement the mathematical practice standards. My name is Audra Christ, and I am joined by Maria Cerise and Brian Simeone. We are the instructors for all of the online courses in the New Jersey Center for Teaching and Learning Mathematics program. Now I'll turn it over to Brian, who has an interesting story to share.
Thank you, Audra. Recently, I was tutoring someone in Algebra 1, and they asked for help because they got a question marked incorrect. Here's what they did. The original problem was 5 times the quantity x minus 1 is equal to 25. They proceeded to immediately divide both sides by 5 to get x minus 1 is equal to 5, which led to the result x is equal to 6.
You said the teacher marked that wrong?
Yes, they did.
6 is the correct answer, though, and the student utilizes proper mathematical reasoning. As educators, we should encourage creative thinking and out-of-the-box responses.
Well, the teacher was expecting the student to apply the distributive property as shown on the right side of the screen.
Brian, what were the directions the teacher gave?
The directions said just solve for x.
I think then that speaks to the importance of having clear directions. If a teacher wants to assess the application of the distributive property when solving equations, that should be explicitly written in the directions. Without that instruction, partial credit at the very least should be awarded to reinforce to the student that their reasoning was sound and that their mathematical understanding was in fact correct.
Exactly. We want to encourage creative thinking and alternative approaches. Notice in the example to the left, the student finds the answer in fewer steps. It's actually more efficient to not use the distributive property to solve this problem.
As educators, we want to be open to accepting alternate approaches with sound mathematical reasoning whenever it occurs in our classroom. If there is a skill we want to emphasize or assess, detailed, well-written directions are key.
I agree with you, Brian. Let's look at another example that can be solved in multiple ways. We have the equation 2/3 x plus 3 is equal to 4. Some may instruct students to multiply all of the terms in the equation by the denominator of 3 to remove the fractions and form an equivalent equation of 2x plus 9 is equal to 12. Then they can use the regular inverse operations to solve for x, and the x value is 3/2. Others may instead follow the reverse order of operations, which is the standard procedure. So here the first step would be to subtract 3 from both sides and get that 2/3 x is equal to 1. And then we would proceed by multiplying both sides by the reciprocal 3/2. And the end result is still that x is equal to 3/2. Both are acceptable solutions to the problem, and both methods follow the rules of mathematics and are correct.
So the second method on the right shows strict adherence to the reverse order of operations, but students who are uncomfortable with fractions may prefer multiplying all terms in the equation by the common denominator to get the more familiar two-step equation many tend to prefer.
Ironically enough, there is a third approach to this problem. I once had a student who preferred the coefficient of x to be 1 as fast as possible. So they would actually multiply by the reciprocal first to both sides, to all the terms on both sides. And therefore now the x term has a coefficient of 1. They didn't mind working with fractions when they distributed, but at the very end, they subtracted the two fractions and still got 3/2 as an answer.
That is an interesting and very clever way to think about that. And you know what? This emphasizes that as educators, we should be open to alternate approaches, defining solutions that use sound mathematical reasoning. And I want to note that is a demonstration of mathematical practice standard number 5.
I agree. That's a great point, Brian. As educators, the simple discussion and displaying of these various approaches with students in a classroom satisfies the following mathematical practice standards. These practices naturally flow within the concepts of mathematics and can be easily incorporated into daily practices, as you've just seen, to enhance the growth mindset of our students.
These are all excellent contributions. Thank you both for sharing. That's all the time we have for today. Join us again at our next roundtable.